Welcome to Midnight Mule FPL. I'm Midnight Mule and this is the video for Game Week 38 where we look at the popular players, the once popular players and the players that may be worth bringing in for the final game week. But before we do that, let's see who did well in Game Week 37. For the goalkeepers, Raya got 7, Martinez 6, Pickford 6, and that's all. For the defenders, none of the most popular defenders did anything. And then Konza 15, Milenkovic 8, Williams 4, Mikalenko 8, Wout Fass 6. For the midfielders, Bowen 8, Rogers 6 and Bremo 5. Eze 6, Sarr 5. And that's all. For the forwards, Visser 10, Marmoush 8, Watkins 5. Raul Jimenez 9, Vardy 8. And that's all. We're now going to look at the players for Game Week 38. And if you've got 11 playing players and you're not on a bench boost, I would suggest you do not take a hit. The only excuse as far as I can see to take a hit would be if you're playing absolutely for fun. So for example, if you particularly like Arsenal and you've got no Arsenal players and you want 3 on the last day of the game week, take a -4, -8, whatever it is, get them in and enjoy the game week. It doesn't matter anymore. If you're chasing or if you're trying to defend your position, I don't think there's anyone worth taking a hit for. As we go through this, I will try and remember to highlight players that I think are worth having if you're on a free hit or a wild card. So starting with the goalkeepers, if you've got a playing keeper, I'd say it's not worth changing your keeper unless you've got Areola and that's your only playing keeper, because he plays for West Ham and there's a chance they'll play Fabianski instead. So the most popular keeper this week I think is likely to be Raya. Very good game away to Southampton, reasonable chance of a free hit. If you don't have Raya and he does well, that is going to hurt your rank. Then I think Sales for Forest is going to be quite popular. Home to Chelsea, reasonable chance of a clean sheet there, but Sales is getting sold quite a lot and Raya is getting bought. If you're on a wild card or a free hit and you can afford to get Raya, it's worth getting him. But if doing that means you're making your defence, midfield or forwards weaker than you want, then don't go for Raya, go for a cheaper keeper. Martinez, personally, I don't think that would be a clean sheet away to Man United, who are playing as I record this. But Aston Villa have kept clean sheets recently. In any case, if you've got a playing keeper, don't change it. Areola, I think, is a bit dodgy. Away to Ipswich, reasonable chance of a clean sheet there. But it's Fabianski's last game for West Ham, who's the other keeper. So I think there's a chance Fabianski's going to start and get the full 90 minutes. I think it's also possible he'll come on at half time, or at least he'll come on at the end if there's still a transfer that West Ham can make. So even if West Ham keep a clean sheet and Areola starts, I don't think that necessarily means you're going to get the clean sheet, because he may get switched out before 60. That being said, if you've got Areola and he's your only keeper, I would absolutely not waste a transfer changing your keeper. I'll just take the risk. So Pope for Newcastle, home fixture to Everton, very nice. If you're on a wildcard free hit and you can't afford Raya, then Pope is a perfectly good choice. And other goalkeepers, and none of these are going to hurt your rank if they do well and you don't own them. Pickford away to Newcastle, we're not expecting a clean sheet there. Flecken away to Wolves, possibly a clean sheet. So if you've got either of these, that's fine, you just play them. Henderson, almost certainly not a clean sheet away to Liverpool. And then Ward's any goalkeeper that doesn't even play. Fabianski may come on, he may get something, he may get a clean sheet. If you've got Areola and Fabianski, that's fine, you could have those two. Probably start with either one, it doesn't matter because you'll get the other one in anyway. But start with Areola. For the defenders, Gvardiol's going to be the most popular defender. Away to Fulham. If you're on a wildcard or a free hit, worth getting him if you can afford to, but it may be your fund to be better used midfield or forwards. But he is going to hurt your rank if you don't own him and he does well. Kerkez is becoming very popular. At home to Leicester, reasonable chance of a clean sheet, especially with no Vardy for Leicester, and he could get an attacking return. Burn at home to Everton, could get something there, as could Livramento. So we're introducing Kivior. He's only 4.9 million. He's still not very highly owned, but he is growing in popularity. But because he's cheap, he will help release some funds if you need some funds. And then Munoz away to Liverpool, almost certainly not a clean sheet there. He may get an attacking return. If you've got Munoz, that's fine. Absolutely wouldn't go moving him out unless you're on a wildcard or free hit. Absolutely wouldn't be bringing Munoz in though. And then cheaper defenders, these aren't going to hurt your rank if they do well. Cons away to United, wouldn't go buying him. Saliba, I would assume he's not playing. He went off at half-time in the last game with potential hamstring issue. The general thinking is Arsenal wouldn't bother risking him if there's any chance he's not right. So if we hear beforehand that Arteta says Saliba's fine, he can play, then it's fine to keep him. If you've got enough defenders playing, he can just sit on your bench, so it's not worth a transfer. If you're free hitting or wild carding, absolutely don't bother getting Saliba. Milenkovic, home to Chelsea, could get a clean sheet. Aït-Nouri probably won't get a clean sheet, home to Brentford, chance of an attacking return. Virgil van Dijk, if you've got him okay, chance of a clean sheet home to Crystal Palace, but I'm not expecting it. But he's absolutely not worth buying. Nico Williams, nice and cheap. If he's on your bench, that's fine. If you have to play him, that's fine as well. For the defenders that are now very lowly owned but used to be popular, Mykolenko, so away to Newcastle, probably won't get anything. Absolutely not worth moving out, of course. If you're using a chip and you want him to put on your bench because he's nice and cheap, that's reasonable. Konate at home to Palace, I wouldn't be bringing him in. If you have to play him, that's okay though. Timber, assume he's not playing. Now, if you've got Timber and Saliba and only two other defenders, or two defenders and another one that you really don't want, then perhaps you could make a defender switch. And then Greaves at Ipswich, nice and cheap, 3.8. If he's on your bench, that's fine. Well, Fass is all right, probably won't get anything, as is Masraoui and Howard Bellis. So if you're playing a chip, let's look at the defenders, what I think. I would probably get, if I could afford it, I would definitely get Kivior. I would probably get Kerkez. And then if you can afford him, Gvardiol. Otherwise, Burn or Livramento, either of those is fine. From this page, you could get Aït-Nouri as one of your three that's playing, but the previous page would be the better ones to get. And there's no one here apart from as bench fodder. For the midfielders, so Salah and Mbeumo are the two most popular midfielders. I think by the time we get to the game week on a Sunday, Mbeumo may be slightly more popular than Salah because Salah is getting sold a lot. But I think there's more chance that Salah's going to get a better score than Mbeumo will. Last home game against Palace, if you don't own Salah and he does well, that's going to hurt your rank a lot. If you own Salah but don't captain him and he does well, that's going to hurt your rank a lot. But if you don't own him or don't captain him and he does nothing, that's going to be helping you because you'll be getting points from elsewhere. So if you're wildcarding or free hitting, these two are worth getting if you can get to them. But if it's compromising your team too much because you haven't got enough money, then you could let go of Salah if you wanted to. Bowen, very popular. If you're playing one of the chips, definitely worth getting Bowen in. He just consistently keeps getting points. So Saka, at time of recording, a bit risky. We don't know for sure if he's going to play, and if he does, we don't know how much he's going to play. If we knew he was playing 75 or more minutes away to Southampton, absolutely definitely worth getting. At the moment, though, we don't know. Maybe he'll play 45, maybe he won't play at all. I suspect he will play, though. So if you're using a chip, it's worth getting him in. A lot of people have already sold Salah and bought Saka. That's a little bit risky. But it's okay, way to Southampton. But neither Saka nor Salah have done very well the last few game weeks. So if you have neither of those, that's okay. Then Rodgers, he's a good player, but away to United. Personally, I wouldn't be getting him on one of the chips. Murphy, definitely wouldn't be getting him. He's a perfectly good player, but he's playing a bit more defensively at the moment. And then De Bruyne. So if he plays and plays a good number of minutes, I think he's a reasonable player to get. But if you could afford De Bruyne or Saka or Salah, then De Bruyne would be my last choice of those three if I was on a chip. But if you've got him, I think he's fine to keep, but he is getting sold slightly. Second page of midfielders that are going to hurt you less if they do well. Eze away to Liverpool, reasonable chance for an attacking return. Absolutely wouldn't go buying him, but he's fine to have. So Cliver, people have been bringing him in at home to Leicester on penalties when he's on the pitch. he could be very good, but he came off at half time in the last game. And if he only plays 45 minutes, he's probably not worth having. If we knew we're getting 75, 80 minutes or more out of him, he's definitely worth having. So at time of recording, if you've got him, I'd say that's fine. Personally, I don't think I'd be bringing him in though. So Sarr for Palace, absolutely wouldn't be bringing him in, but if you have to play him, that's all right. Palmer, wouldn't go bringing him in, not even on a chip, but if you've got him, he's perfectly fine to play. Away to Forest, he may get something there. Semenyo, so home to Leicester, but his minutes seem a lot more secure than Kluivert's. It's a similar price, 5.7, whereas Kluivert's 5.9. If you want to get Semenyo and you're on a chip, that's absolutely fine. Last page of midfielders, these won't hurt your rank if they do well and you don't own them. So Luis Diaz, he's been doing better the last several game weeks than Salah has, and he's a lot cheaper. So if you wanted to get him instead of Salah and risk he's going to outscore Salah, that's reasonable. Just be aware there is a risk with that. And of course you don't have to get him anyway if you don't want to. Enzo, nice and cheap. I wouldn't go buying him unless he's to sit on your bench, but if you have to play him, he's all right. Fernandes, basically nobody owns Fernandes now. He's massively dumped. Home to Aston Villa, obviously could get something. If you own him and have to play him, you don't need to worry about him, but he would be a fine candidate to think about moving on. For example, Fernandes to Bowen, it's a perfectly reasonable move. Gordon, effectively nobody owns him, but at home to Everton, reasonable chance of good minutes. He's all right to have. I wouldn't go buying him, but if you've got him, that's all right. Dibbling, nice and cheap. He gets to sit on your bench. So for the chips, for the midfielders, you have to get 5. I would definitely get Bowen. I would definitely get Mbeumo. And then if you wanted to get one or more of Salah, Saka, De Bruyne, you could. I absolutely wouldn't get all 3, even if you could afford it though. Of those, Salah's the safest one to get to protect your rank. But if you want to chase or have a bit of fun, Saka could be your guy. Off the second page of midfielders, Semenyo's the only one from here that I would get. From the last page, Luis Diaz is absolutely fine. You could get Dibbling to sit on your bench, something like that. And of course, there's others in the system to choose from. For the forwards, so Isak's the most popular at home to Everton, but we don't know if he's going to play. So if you've got him and before the game week starts we hear he's playing, absolutely keep him, absolutely play him. If you're on a chip and we find out he's playing, he's fine to get. If we don't get news that he's playing, personally on a chip, I wouldn't get him. There's some other very good options for forwards. Visser's very popular, worth having. If he does well and you don't own him, that's going to hurt your rank. And he's got a reasonable chance of getting something away to Wolves. Watkins is very popular and people are using their money from the sale of perhaps Salah or Isak to move to Watkins. So if you've got nothing else to do and you've got Isak and we don't get news one way or the other if he's playing, it's all right to move him on to Visser or Watkins. Chris Wood, personally I wouldn't buy him. He may get a maximum of 1 goal at home to Chelsea. He may get nothing. I haven't got Chris Wood. I've got no intention of getting him. But if he does really well, he would hurt my rank. But that doesn't matter because my rank's rubbish because I've not been following the system. So Haaland, I've added him to the system simply because people are bringing him in. Away to Fulham, he should get a good amount of minutes. So some people are selling maybe Salah to buy Bowen and then switching out Isak to get Haaland. It's quite risky because he hasn't been great, but he could get a massive score. It's possible. Chances are he won't though. But if you've got him, that's fine. You don't need to move him on. And if you wanted to buy him on a chip, that's all right as well. So Marmoush, his minutes are less secure than Haaland, but the chances are they're both going to play and the chances are they'll both get some decent minutes. So Even Nielsen, he's very cheap. I've added him to the system because lots of managers are now bringing him in. At home to Leicester, a reasonable chance of a return there. So if you wanted to play 2 up front, Even Nielsen and one of Visser, Watkins, Haaland, I think that's completely reasonable. If you wanted to play 3, then I guess Even Nielsen and any of the other 2 would be all right. But if we hear that Isak is fit and playing, then Isak wants to be in your reckoning if you're on a chip. And then the second page of forwards, these aren't going to hurt your rank if they do well, you don't own them. So Kuna, I think he came on last night, didn't do anything. It's his last home game. I think there's a reasonable chance he's going to get some minutes there. If he starts, that's great for Kuna owners. He could get a decent score. But he is getting sold. He's going to be getting sold a lot more by the time we get to the deadline. If you want to move him on, that's fine. If you play him, you are risking getting a 1 point or else somebody from your bench coming on. But if he plays a good number of minutes, he could easily be getting 10 points or more. Mateta, absolutely don't go buying him. If you've got him, that's all right. If you've got nothing else to do, he's a sensible player to move on. Beto, absolutely wouldn't go buying him away to Newcastle. Raul Jimenez, he's done well recently. He's at home to Man City, and Man City do sometimes struggle a bit defensively. So if you've got him, he's fine to have. If you're using a chip and you're going to buy him to put on your bench, that's all right. Or if you particularly wanted to play him, okay. I personally probably wouldn't buy Raul Jimenez to start as one of my 11, but he's all right as a squad player. And if you've got him, you have to play him, that's fine. But nobody owns him, so he's not going to hurt your rank if he does well. Vardy, he's now left the Premier League effectively. He's not even going to play. Obviously, you don't need to use a transfer moving him on, but if you've got a chip, you may as well. Well, obviously, you'd replace him. And then Cannon represents any 4.5 million forward that doesn't even play. We're now going to look at the benching order for the players we've just looked at, starting with the keepers. The first player you see that you've got, I suggest you put on your bench, which means you're playing your other keeper. So Fabianski, if you've got Fabianski and Areola, I suggest Fabianski is the one on your bench because I think there's more chance Areola starts and Fabianski comes on than the other way around. Or any goalkeeper doesn't even play, of course they're on your bench. Henderson away to Liverpool, not a clean sheet. Flecken away to Wolves, probably not a clean sheet. Then it'd be Pickford, Areola. So I think with West Ham there's a reasonable chance of a clean sheet, but we can't be sure of the minutes of either keeper. Martinez away to United, I'm not expecting a clean sheet, but it could happen. Sales at home to Chelsea, Pope, and then Reyes, the best keeper this game week. Now for the remaining players, the first player you see that you've got, I suggest is position 3 on your bench. Next one, position 2. Last one, position 1. But this is just a suggestion. You do whatever you like, obviously. So Cannon represents any player that's not even playing. Then Dibbling, Beto, Howard Bellis, Belfast, Greaves, Mazraoui, Mikalenko, Kanate, Williams, Konza, Milenkovic, Enzo, Munoz, Aït-Nouri, Mateta, Sarr, Eze, Murphy, Kirkez, Saliba, who probably isn't playing, but he might play, and if he does, you want to play him. Virgil van Dijk, Byrne, Livramento, Fernandes, Gordon, Cliver, Rogers, Cunha, Kivior, Gvardiol, Semenyo, Raul Jimenez, Palmer, Wood, Marmouche, Mbeumo, Visser, Eva Nilsson, Luis Diaz, and De Bruyne. Regarding captaincy, Salah is probably going to be the most captained player, certainly throughout the player base. And amongst engaged managers, he will probably be the most captained unless we get confirmation beforehand that Saka's starting, in which case a lot of managers that own Saka and Salah will probably play on Saka. So Salah's the safest one, but Saka may outscore Salah. And then Bowen's a nice steady choice, reasonable chance of between 5 and 9 points, and then you get to double it. And if you want a forward, then Haaland could be a nice cheeky choice to go for. Some people would be captaining him. Watkins or else Isak, but only if we find out Isak's playing. So of these 6, at time recording, Saka and Isak are a bit dodgy. Bowen's probably the safest one with the highest floor. But Salah and Haaland and Saka have all got a chance of getting a very high score. If you don't fancy any of these, then any of the midfielders or forwards on the previous page that were green, they'd also be a good choice. And as for the background picture, this series has been an unbelievable amount of work this season. The getting together of all the data takes literally hours every week. The actual graphical side of things, that's not a problem. So next season, I'm going to make this much better for me, but I'll also make it better for you, hopefully. So this represents me burning all the plans and everything to do with this series because I'm not going to be doing it like this next season. So there we have it, my thoughts for Game Week 38. If you've got any questions regarding what players you should do certain things with, or if you just want to say thanks for the series, feel free to drop a comment. If you've got suggestions what you'd like to see me doing next season for this series, put those in the comments as well. I've already got lots of ideas of what I'm dropping and what I'm going to be bringing in. But the most important thing is I've got to make this a lot less work for me without losing any of the essence of it. All right, all the best for Game Week 38, and I hope you get a good summer break. Thanks, bye.